Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Nārāyana Goswami Maharaj Śrīla Gurudev ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupāda Śrītara Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Vāman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupāda Śrītara Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Swami Maharaj Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupāda Śrītara Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupāda Śrītara Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Maha-Bhagavat Śrīla Gokṣaras Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopala Bhattadash Raghunath Sharda Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshada Vrinda ki jai. Namachay Śrīla Hairas Ṭhākura ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kund ki jai. Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Shri Apara Akarashi Titi ki jai. Akarashi Titi Palan Kari Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura ki jai. Sārārtha-darśiṇī vritti ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad-Bhakti Vedanta Nārāyana Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo mahavadanyaya Krishna prema pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yang Pravrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Virahakatara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Bhinedustang Sarvabhuta Hridayam Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Shrinvatang Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridantasto Yabhadrani Vidhunoti Suhrit Satam Nashta Prayeshvabhadreshu Nityang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvang Nayamam Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshai Shiptashtakama Ditaranga Madhe Kripa Mai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dandavat pranams Verseshwari Mataji, Madhavi Didi, Rohit Radha Krishnan ji, Kishore Prabhu, Savitri Didi, Indira Mataji in the future when she watches it. So yesterday we read, okay, Maharaj Parikshit requests Shukadeva Goswami to speak about all the different pastimes of Krishna in the 10th canto. Then Shukadeva Goswami glorifies Maharaj Parikshit's questions. Then Mother Earth, then he begins. Mother Earth approaches Brahma, and then Brahma, along with Lord Shiva and all the other demigods, they go to the Milk Ocean, and Brahma prays to Lord Vishnu, and then Vishnu, by his mind, right? Was it by his mind? He indicated that he gave assurance that he would come and that all the demigods and demigoddesses should take birth in Vraj. So now we're going to, now Vasudeva is going to marry Devaki. We'll read about Kaṁsa's reaction to the aerial sounds. Vasudeva's first attempt to pacify Kaṁsa. Vasudeva's attempts fails, and then Vasudeva rethinks. Vasudeva successfully pacifies Kaṁsa. Vasudeva gives his first child to Kaṁsa. Nārada Muni instigates Kaṁsa to kill all the 6 children of Devaki. And yeah, that's what we're going to go over right now. We're reading Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura's Sārārtha-darśiṇī commentary. And I'm not going to read the Sanskrit since we already read it just a couple days ago. Maybe I'll do it on one verse, an important verse, verse 58. Okay. Let's read, what was the last verse, just so that we get to good. The potency of the Lord, the foremost manifestation of Krishna is Sankarshan, who is known as Ananta. He is the origin of all incarnations within this material world. Previous to the appearance of Lord Krishna, this original Sankarshan will appear as Baladev, just to please the Supreme Lord Krishna and his transcendental pastimes. The potency of the Lord, known as Vishnu Maya, who is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will also appear with Lord Krishna. This potency, acting in different capacities, captivates all the worlds, both material and spiritual. At the request of her master, she will appear with her different potencies in order to execute the work of the Lord. Shukadeva Goswami continued, after thus advising the demigods and pacifying Mother Earth, the very powerful Lord Brahma, who is the master of all other Prajapatis and is therefore known as Prajapati Pati, returned to his own abode, Brahmaloka, Sārārtha-darśiṇī Vritti by Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. Iti, thus indicates that here the message of Vishnu as related by Brahma to the demigods ends. Verse 727. Formerly, Shurasena, the chief of the Yadu dynasty, had gone to live in the city of Mathura. There he enjoyed the places known as Mathura and Shurasena. Mathuram. Now begins the description of Krishna's appearance in Vasudeva's house in Mathura. First, the suitable place of his birth is described. Verse 28. Since that time, the city of Mathura had been the capital of all the kings of the Yadu dynasty. The city and district of Mathura are very intimately connected with Krishna, for Lord Krishna lives there eternally. Commentary. Nityang sannihito. All perfect Krishna is eternally present in his spiritual form in Mathura and the material world. It is there that Krishna appears and becomes visible to the people of the world. Krishna does not descend from Vaikuntha, but when Krishna appears, his expansions from Vaikuntha and Shvetadip unite with him. After the pastimes are over, they return to their respective abodes. That they descend from Vaikuntha and later return there is mentioned in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 3:2-15. Para varesho maharangsha yukto. Verse 29. Some time ago, Vasudeva, who belonged to the demigod family, or to the Śrīla dynasty, married Devaki. After the marriage, he mounted his chariot to return home with his newly married wife. Commentary. Vasudeva mounted the chariot with his newly married wife, Suryaya, his newly married wife Devaki, to go to his house, Prayani, the day after the marriage. Verse 30. Kaṁsa, the son of King Ugrasen, in order to please his sister Devaki on the occasion of her marriage, took charge of the reins of the horses and became the chariot driver. He was surrounded by hundreds of golden chariots. Commentary. Swasu. In some editions, the word swasu is replaced by bhagnya. Kaṁsa took the reins, the rashmin, of the horses in order to please his sister, swasu or bhagnya. Verse 31 and 32. Devaki's father, King Devaka, was very much affectionate to his daughter. Therefore, while she and her husband were leaving home, he gave her a dowry of 400 elephants, nicely decorated with golden garlands. He also gave 10,000 horses, 1,800 chariots, and 200 very beautiful young maidservants, fully decorated with ornaments. Commentary. Paribarham, dowry, yane, at the time of the journey. Verse 33. O beloved son, Maharaj Parikshit, when the bride and bridegroom were ready to start, conch shells, bugles, drums, and kettle drums all vibrated in concert for their auspicious departure. Verse 34. While Kaṁsa, controlling the reins of the horses, was driving the chariot along the way, an unembodied voice addressed him. You foolish rascal, the 8th child of the woman you are carrying will kill you. Commentary. Asharira vak. Sharira means body, and asharir means bodiless, and vak means speech. So while Kaṁsa held the reins of the horses in his hands, an unseen voice announced, the 8th offspring of the woman you are carrying will kill you. Out of fear that Krishna might not kill Kaṁsa because of his extreme affection for Devaki, the demigods delivered this message from the sky in order to arouse Kaṁsa's anger toward Devaki. Vasudeva had heard from his mother that when he was born, there were sounds of drums announcing the future birth of an incarnation of the Lord. Vasudeva told this to Devaki. Thus hearing the voice from the sky, Devaki became blissful, for she understood that the Lord would appear in her womb. Also, through the message, it was understood that the 6 sons of Marichi would be delivered from their curse after being killed by Kaṁsa. Garbho, pregnancy. This word is used instead of putra, son, so that when Kaṁsa saw the 8th child to be a daughter, he would not be suspicious. Okay. Verse 35. Kaṁsa was a condemned personality in the Bhoja dynasty because he was envious and sinful. Therefore, upon hearing this omen from the sky, he caught hold of his sister's hair with his left hand and took up his sword with his right hand to sever her head from her body. Commentary. Kula Pangsana. Kaṁsa, who contaminated his family with sin, prepared to kill Devaki. Out of affection for his sister, Kaṁsa held the reins of the horse with his left hand. Suddenly, he grabbed Devaki's hair in order to kill her. Throwing away the whip from his right hand, he took up his sword. The affection of materialistic people is flickering and easily transforms into hate. They have no regard for religious principles. They are so shameless that even in the eyes of the common man, they can commit murder. Verse 36. Wanting to pacify Kaṁsa, who is so cruel and envious that he was shamelessly ready to kill his sister, the great soul Vasudeva, who is to be the father of Krishna, spoke to him in the following words. Commentary. Mahabhaga, greatly fortunate. Upon seeing that Kaṁsa was ready to kill his wife, Vasudeva did not show anger because he was an ocean of good qualities such as patience, gravity, forgiveness, and cleverness. The question may arise, how could a cruel person such as Kaṁsa listen to Vasudeva's advice? Therefore, he is described as Mahabhaga. Even tigers and snakes do not create obstacles when they encounter those possessed of good qualities. Verse 37. Vasudeva said, My dear brother-in-law, Kaṁsa, you are the pride of your family, the Bhoja dynasty, and great heroes praise your qualities. How could such a qualified person as you kill a woman, your own sister, especially on the occasion of her marriage? Commentary. Vasudeva used the diplomatic principles of sama, pacification with kind words invoking relationship and glorification of qualities, dan, personal gain in helping others, and bhed, creating dissension. Shlaghaniya guna, one with praiseworthy qualities. One with praiseworthy qualities glorifies Kaṁsa's. One with praiseworthy qualities glorifies Kaṁsa's qualities. Sama. I don't get any. Bhoja Yashakara, a brilliant star in the Bhoja dynasty, invokes family relationship. Sama. Bhagnim, sister. By mentioning this word to invoke fear and doubt, Vasudeva employs dissension or bhed. Hanyat striyam, how can you kill? These words indicate gain in helping others, dan. Though Devaki bears your killer, you will gain fame by not killing her since she is a woman. Sparing her life, therefore, is helping others. Udvaha Parvani, after all, Devaki is a defenseless woman, your sister, and it will happen during her wedding. Presently, you are a famous person, but killing her now will bring infamy in this life and hell in the next life. Thus, Vasudeva indicates two types of bhed, problems in this life and the next. The real intent of Vasudeva's words can be understood by taking opposite meanings. Saying Kaṁsa has praiseworthy qualities actually indicates that Kaṁsa does not have those qualities. In the Bhoja dynasty, Kaṁsa is famous for causing problems. By killing his sister, Kaṁsa will destroy his dynasty. Verse 38. O great hero, one who takes birth is sure to die, for death is born with the body. One may die today or after hundreds of years, but death is sure for every living entity. Commentary. Seeing no change in Kaṁsa's heart, Vasudeva tries logic to advise Kaṁsa. O king, out of fear of death, you are about to commit. Now listen to me. Death is unavoidable. With this intention, Vasudeva speaks this verse. Janma vatam, one who has taken birth. Factually, there is no birth or death for the soul. Only those who take birth by accepting a material body have death. Saha. Sa means it is well known. Ha indicates that the fact is definite. What place? Va, either or, and two vas are used to indicate the inability to predict the time of death. Death could come any time between now and 100 years. Mrityur vai praninam dhruvaha. Death is certain for all. Vasudeva presents proof by saying this, which resembles a verse from Bhagavad Gita 2:27. Tatasya hi dhruva mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha. For one who has taken his birth, death is certain, and for one who is dead, birth is certain. Therefore, O brave one, A courageous warrior like you should not be afraid of death. Verse 39. When the present body turns to dust and is again reduced to 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, the proprietor of the body, the living being, automatically receives another body of material elements according to his fruit of activities. When the next body is obtained, he gives up the present body. Commentary. Birth means accepting a body, and death means giving up a body. Both are inevitable. With that intention, Vasudeva speaks this verse. When the body is about to die, one receives another body, and then gives up the old body. But one should not lament for the loss of enjoyment along with loss of the body. Therefore, Vasudeva says, Karmanugaha. Avashya, the new body is decided by one's actions in this life. If you have karma to enjoy in the future, then certainly you will get that enjoyment. Therefore, you should give up killing a woman, which will produce suffering in the next body. Verse 40. Just as a person traveling on the road rests one foot on the ground and then lifts the other, or as a worm on a vegetable transfers itself to one leaf and then gives up the previous one, the conditioned soul takes shelter of another body and then gives up the old one he had, and then gives up the one he had before. Commentary. In this verse, Vasudeva gives examples to show how one gives up the present body after attaining the new body in a subtle form via karma. A man puts his foot forward on the ground firmly, and then withdraws his back leg from the ground and puts it forward. He does not put both feet forward at the same time. However, in this example, the feet are fixing themselves and withdrawing themselves from the same ground. As this may be unsatisfying to the mind, Vasudeva cites the example of a caterpillar, who, after taking some of grass in front of him, gives up the previous blade of grass. Verse 41. Having experienced a situation by seeing or hearing about it, one contemplates and speculates about that situation, and thus one surrenders to it, not considering his present body. Similarly, by mental adjustments, one dreams at night of living under different circumstances in different bodies and forgets his actual position. Under this same process, one gives up his present body and accepts another, Tata Dehantara Praptihi. That's Bhagavad Gita 13. Commentary. Vasudeva now shows an example from everyday life. In a dream, one sees a body similar to the one seen in the waking state, idrisham. Similarly, a person whose consciousness is deeply absorbed in someone through seeing a king, for example, or through hearing about Lord Indra, for example, that person will see oneself as the king or Indra in his dream, and attempts to enjoy like the king or Indra as he forgets his original body. Verse 42. At the time of death, according to the thinking, feeling, and willing of the mind, which is involved in fruitive activities, one receives a particular body. In other words, the body develops according to the activities of the mind. Changes of body are due to the flickering of the mind, for otherwise the soul could not remain in its original spiritual body. Commentary. A question now arises. The minds can only enjoy because of the influence of the demigods over the mind. The demigods enable one to become absorbed in the image of a king or Indra. How is it possible for the minds to get enjoyment meant for someone else? This verse answers the question. Vikaratmakam, changing mentality. Whatever objects produced from the 5 elements, earth, water, air, etc., that the impressionable mind becomes attracted to, those objects, dehi aso. Because of its close association with the mind, the soul also enjoys those objects, prapadyamana jayate, along with the absorbed mind. Verse 43. When the luminaries in the sky, such as the moon, the sun, and the stars, are reflected in liquids like oil or water, they appear to be of different shapes, sometimes round, sometimes long, and so on, because of the movements of the wind. Similarly, when the living entity, the soul, is absorbed in materialistic thoughts, he accepts various manifestations as his own identity because of ignorance. In other words, one is bewildered by mental concoctions because of agitation from the material modes of nature. Commentary. Now, Vasudeva gives an example to show how the soul, due to association with the mind, attains the same destination. Jyotir, sunlight or moonlight, vodaka, udaka, refers to water, oil, or ghee. The image of the sun is reflected on the surface of water, but it changes shape as the wind blows the surface and produces ripples. Guneshu. And the bodies in the Guneshu created by the Lord's Maya, Somaya Rachiteshu, or by one's own ignorance, the living entity, Puman, following the mind which is filled with desires for enjoyment, Raganugata, becomes bewildered and takes up the same desire for enjoyment. Vasudeva said, by killing Devaki, you will obstruct the soul's desire to enjoy. Even if you die, you will enjoy in the next body, because you will attain an auspicious body, since your good deeds must bear result. But killing Devaki will bring you suffering in the future. Your death by the future son of Devaki, which was announced in the sky, is unavoidable as it is under the laws of karma. Therefore, Kaṁsa, you should accept that death. All you can do is have Markandeya Rishi perform some ceremonies as preventative measures. Verse 44. Therefore, since envious and pious activities cause a body in which one suffers in the next life, why should one act impiously? Considering one's welfare, one should not envy anyone, for an envious person must always fear harm from his enemies, either in this life or in the next. Commentary. Sa tata vidaha. A person covered by ignorance should not commit violence. Drogdur. Envious. For one who commits violence to others, there is fear of harm from Yamaraj and others. Parataha. In this verse, Vasudeva uses the diplomatic principle of bhed to instill fear in Kaṁsa. 45. As your younger sister, this poor girl Devaki is like your own daughter and deserves to be affectionately maintained. You are merciful, and therefore you should not kill her. Indeed, she deserves your affection. Commentary. Following the saying, by praise the ferocious becomes tamed, Vasudeva again began praising Kaṁsa. That's called Sama, right? Putrika Upama, daughter. Devaki deserves your mercy because she is just like your daughter. The sentence can also mean, Devaki is petrified like a doll out of fear. Putrikaya also means doll. Dina Vatsala, you should not kill her because you are compassionate to the suffering. The real meaning of Dina Vatsala, however, is one who accepts even a calf from a most poor person as a tax. That's very interesting. Okay, verse 46. Shukadeva Goswami continued. O best of the Kuru dynasty, Kaṁsa was fiercely cruel and was actually a follower of the Rakshasas. Therefore, he could be neither pacified nor terrified by the good instructions given by Vasudeva. He did not care about the results of sinful activities, either in this life or in the next. Commentary. Bodhyamano api, pacified. Though Kaṁsa was instructed by Vasudeva with pacifying and fear-instilling words, because he kept company with Rakshasas, Purusha Adan, man-eaters, he did not give up his intent to kill her. 47. When Vasudeva saw that Kaṁsa was determined to kill his sister Devaki, he thought to himself very deeply. Considering the imminent danger of death, he thought of another plan to stop Kaṁsa. Commentary. Dundubhi. At my birth, the demigods sounded drums. Dundubhi. Therefore, nothing unfortunate can happen to me. With this certainty, Vasudeva, whose second name is Anakadundubi, thought of a way to avoid the imminent danger to Devaki. Verse 48. As long as he has intelligence and bodily strength, an intelligent person must try to avoid death. This is the duty of every embodied person. But if death cannot be avoided in spite of one's endeavors, a person facing death commits no offense. Commentary. Yeah. As long as a person has power and intelligence, he will try to avoid death. I cannot use strength to avoid Devaki's death at Kaṁsa's hands, but I can use my intelligence. A soul, death. Verses 49 to 50. Vasudeva considered, by delivering all my sons to Kaṁsa, who is death personified, I shall save the life of Devaki. Perhaps Kaṁsa will die before my sons take birth, or since he is already destined to die at the hands of my son, one of my sons may kill him. For the time being, let me promise to hand over my sons so that Kaṁsa will give up this immediate threat, and if in due course of time Kaṁsa dies, I shall have nothing to fear. Commentary. Vasudeva silently speaks this verse. This is what I'll do. I'll give my sons to the personification of death, pradaya mrityave, Kaṁsa. But then Kaṁsa thinks, that is not proper. With this anxiety, he continues to think, if I don't have any sons, there is no need to worry. If I have sons and Kaṁsa has not died by them, it is certainly improper. But I must save Devaki now. If Kaṁsa dies before that time, then there is no need to worry. Or the opposite may happen. If I give my sons to Kaṁsa, they may become strong and kill Kaṁsa. But how can infant sons kill strong Kaṁsa? The ways of the Lord are hard to understand, but Providence, Dhatu, has proclaimed, the 8th child will kill Kaṁsa. Therefore, it is better to save Devaki from Kaṁsa's hands by promising to give the children to him, for Kaṁsa will also die. 51. When a fire, for some unseen reason, leaps over one piece of wood and sets fire to the next, the reason is destiny. Similarly, when a living being accepts one kind of body and leaves aside another, there is no other reason than unseen destiny. Vasudeva deliberates further. What I have decided to do is not improbable, for no living entity can escape its fate, even Kaṁsa. To illustrate this, Vasudeva gives an example. When there is a forest fire, what causes the fire to burn one tree and not another? There is no other cause than fate. Just as the cause of the tree's suffering is fate, so the cause of a person accepting and losing his body is fate alone. We cannot determine it with our intelligence. Verse 52. After thus considering the matter as far as his knowledge would allow, Vasudeva submitted his proposal to the sinful Kaṁsa with great respect. Commentary. Vimrishya, contemplating. After carefully considering the options by using his intelligence to its full capacity to determine the correct path, Vasudeva began to praise the most sinful papam, Kaṁsa. Verse 53. Vasudeva's mind was full of anxiety because his wife was facing danger, but in order to please the cruel, shameless, and sinful Kaṁsa, he externally smiled and spoke to him as follows. Just checking everything's running okay. Dandavat pranam Cakravartī and Rupmanjari Didi. No problem. Okay, so he externally smiled and spoke to him as follows. Commentary. Vihasan, smiling externally. Vasudeva smiled externally to show Kaṁsa that he was internally satisfied, but factually he was suffering internally. Yeah, one would think so. Verse 54. Vasudeva said, O best of the sober, you have nothing to fear from your sister Devaki because of what you have heard from the unseen omen. The cause of death will be her sons. Therefore, I promise that when she gives birth to the sons from whom your fear has arisen, I shall deliver them all unto your hands. Commentary. Asharirvak, unembodied voice. According to the message heard in the sky, you need not fear Devaki, but her eighth child. Don't worry, I will give you all 8 children. Then you can kill the 8th child, whom you fear, or if you wish, you can kill all 8. Verse 55. Srila Shukadeva Goswami continued. Kaṁsa agreed to the logical arguments of Vasudeva, and, having full faith in Vasudeva's words, he refrained from killing his sister. Vasudeva, being pleased with Kaṁsa, pacified him further and entered his own house. Commentary. Sāravit, essence of truth. Kaṁsa understood that Vasudeva was not lying. Prashasya, pacify. Vasudeva praised Kaṁsa by saying that his good character would spread throughout the universe. Verse 56. Each year thereafter, in due course of time, Devaki, the mother of God and all the demigods, gave birth to a child. Thus she bore 8 sons, one after another, and a daughter named Subhadra. Commentary. Sarva-devata, all demigods. Devaki is described as Sarva-devata, the mother of all the demigods, because she is worshipable as the mother of the Lord. Kanyam, daughter. Subhadra is the daughter. Every year for 8 years, a son was born. The reason is given in verse 58. Verse 57. Vasudeva was very much disturbed by fear of becoming a liar by breaking his promise. Thus, with great pain, he delivered his firstborn son, named Kirtiman, into the hands of Kaṁsa. Commentary. Pratamajam, firstborn baby. It was the custom to name the child on the day of his birth. Thus, on that day, the first child was named Kirtiman. Verse 58. Okay, let's recite this shloka. This is what cannot be given up for the sake of Krishna. It's the essence of this verse. Kem du sahang nusadhunam vidusham kem apekshitam kem akaryam kadaryanam tustyajam kem dhritatmanam. What is painful for saintly persons who strictly adhere to the truth? How could there not be independence for pure devotees who know the Supreme Lord as the substance? What deeds are forbidden for persons of the lowest character? And what cannot be given up for the sake of Lord Krishna by those who have fully surrendered at his lotus feet? Commentary. Sorry, guys. Sadhunam, saint. A question arises. How can I, who am afraid to tell a lie, sadhu, tolerate the murder of my own son before my eyes? Vasudeva gives the answer in this verse. Is it not intolerable for the sadhu? How could Vasudeva offer all the children, even without Kaṁsa's ordering, instead of offering just the 8th child to Kaṁsa? It is not reasonable that a householder be indifferent to his children. The next phrase therefore replies, Vasudeva is not ignorant like the normal person in the material world. For a person with knowledge, devotion, and detachment like Vasudeva, is this to be expected? On the other hand, can Kaṁsa kill his child when he brings that child to him? Is there no mercy in his heart? In answer to this, Vasudeva said, what can a wicked person not do? Should be ready for anything. In order to avoid fault, should Vasudeva give up householder dharma and not produce any children? Vasudeva answers, he who desires to see the Lord in the form of his son holds the Lord in his heart, dhrita atmanam, and remains in household life to bear a son. He should have affection for no other son. Let the 8th child be born quickly. Let me willingly offer up the other children year after year and take responsibility for their death out of eagerness to see the Lord. Verse 58. verse 59. My dear Parikshit, when Kaṁsa saw that Vasudeva, being situated in truthfulness, was completely equipoised in giving him the child, he was very happy. Therefore, with a smiling face, he spoke as follows. Commentary, Samatvam, equipoised. Vasudeva was completely calm because he had no attachment to the son. Verse 60. O Vasudeva, take back your child and go home. I have no fear of your first child. It is the 8th child of you and Devaki I am concerned with, because that is the child by whom I am destined to be killed. 61. Vasudeva agreed and took his child back home, but because Kaṁsa had no character and no self-control, Vasudeva knew that he could not rely on Kaṁsa's word. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, this is verse 62 to 63. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, headed by Nanda Maharaj and including his associate cowherdmen and their wives, were none but the denizens of the heavenly planets, O Maharaj Parikshit, best of the descendants of Bharata. And so too were the descendants of the Vrishni dynasty, headed by Vasudeva, and Devaki and the other women of the dynasty of Yadu. The friends, relatives, and well-wishers of both Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva, and even those who externally appeared to be followers of Kaṁsa, were all demigods. Commentary. These verses were spoken by Shukadeva Goswami, or they can be taken as the words of Nārada to Kaṁsa. When Kaṁsa gave the child back to Devaki, Nārada could see that the appearance of the Lord would be blocked. He therefore appeared to Kaṁsa at this time and spoke these words. Nārada Muni came and spoke confidential words to Kaṁsa in these 2 verses for 9 reasons. Okay, let's see. What are the 9 reasons? 1. Nārada wanted to derive personal joy by seeing his Lord. 2. To give joy to the demigods by provoking Kaṁsa to violence against the devotees and thereby hasten the Lord's advent. Hasten. 3. To accomplish the slaying of Kaṁsa for his violence to the devotees. 4. To shower himself in the intense devotion of Vasudeva and Devaki. 5. And to get their blessings by delivering to them a confirmation of Krishna's appearance. 6. To increase their eagerness to see the Lord. 7. To drown them in an ocean of bliss by cutting down their doubts of whether the Lord would really appear. 8. To please Devaki and Vasudeva by making them blissful even in those circumstances of suffering. And 9. To make Kaṁsa favorable to himself by presenting false friendship. Devata Praya. Celestial inhabitants. This means that though the demigods were born in the Yadu family, some demons were also born among them. Bharata. Kaṁsa is addressed as Bharata because Bha means desire in the mode of ignorance, and Rata means absorption. Kaṁsa was engrossed in enjoying in ignorance. If it is Shukadeva speaking, Bharata refers to Parikshit. One second. Okay. Etat Kaṁsaya Bhagavan Chashangsabhyet Nārada. Oops, wait, I'm not reading all the verses. Sorry, guys. Once the great Saint Nārada approached Kaṁsa and informed him of how the demoniac persons who were a great burden on the earth were going to be killed. Thus Kaṁsa was placed into great fear and doubt. Commentary. Shashanksa. Inform. Nārada informed Kaṁsa how the demigods were appearing in various families. Verses 65 to 66. After the departure of the great Saint Nārada, Kaṁsa thought that all the members of the Yadu dynasty were demigods, and that any of the children born from the womb of Devaki might be Vishnu. Fearing his death, Kaṁsa arrested Vasudeva and Devaki and chained them with iron shackles. Suspecting each of the children to be Vishnu, Kaṁsa killed them one after another because of the prophecy that Vishnu would kill him. Commentary. Kaṁsa heard that Vishnu, who had been his enemy in a previous life, would now be born in the womb of Devaki and would kill him. Hearing from the womb of Nārada, Kaṁsa believes this. Ajana, one who has no birth, Vishnu. Out of fear of Vishnu, Kaṁsa killed the children as soon as they were born. Verse 67. Kings greedy for sense gratification on this earth almost always kill their enemies indiscriminately. To satisfy their own whims, they may kill anyone, even their mothers, fathers, brothers, or friends. Commentary. This was not a surprising action for an evil man, for evil men like Kaṁsa. That is the intention of this verse. What to speak of killing brothers and friends? What to speak of killing father, brothers, and friends? They will kill even their own mothers. The order of seriousness is from first, mother, to the last, friend. Verse 68. In his previous birth, Kaṁsa had been a great demon named Kalanemi and had been killed by Vishnu. Upon learning this information from Nārada, Kaṁsa became envious of everyone connected with the Yadu dynasty. Commentary. Kaṁsa learned from Nārada that in his previous birth as Kalanemi, he had been killed by Vishnu and was now reborn as Kaṁsa in Mathura. Thus, Kaṁsa made the Yadus his enemies. Verse 69. I think we're ending with this verse, right? Yes. Kaṁsa, the most powerful son of Ugrasen, even imprisons his own father, the king of the Yadu, Bhoja, and Antaka dynasties, and personally ruled the states known as Shurasen. Commentary. Shurasen indicates Mathura, which is within Shurasen. Bhuje, enjoyed. Thus the statement he enjoyed Shurasen, Kaṁsa enjoyed ruling Mathura and the surrounding lands. Hey, there's no verb in there. Anyways, thus the statement he enjoyed Shurasen, Kaṁsa enjoyed ruling Mathura and the surrounding lands. Sorry, guys. Thus ends the commentary on the first chapter of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam for the pleasure of the devotees in accordance with the previous acharyas. All right, so now in next chapter we'll read the prayers by the demigods. We'll continue reading from Srila Prabhupada's purports. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashata Shmar Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Shri Guru Devaki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashata Shmar Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashata Shmar Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashata Shmar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashata Shmar Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Srila Gauraksharas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Satchid Ananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarva Bhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadasha Guna Sharda Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Surup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Nama Chai Shri Ṭhākura ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Braja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Shri Radha Kun Shama Kun ki jai, Shri Mona Devi Ganga Devi ki jai, Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai, Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai, Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya ki jai, Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai, Shri Apara Akarashi Titi ki jai, Akarashi Titi Palan Kari Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura ki jai, Shri Sārārtha-darśiṇī vritti ki jai, Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Shri Vasudeva Devaki ki jai, Shri Nārada Rishi ki jai, Shri Krishna Kanaya ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Om Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashachat Krishna Bhakti Padadevi Sattvatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyai Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams, everybody. Oh, and Kishore Prabhu, can you take tapioca on Ekadashi? I haven't had tapioca that many times on Ekadashi, but yes, I have seen them make tapioca, but what is it called? Sabuna? Sabudina? Sabuna. I can't remember. Something like that. But it should not, like, I'm not sure if all tapioca is pure, so if it's like pure tapioca and not mixed with anything, I don't know. I don't know that much about tapioca, but yes, I have seen them make tapioca before. Not in our mat here, and not, I remember seeing them making it in Gopinath Bhavan. So yeah, I think it's okay. Just make sure that it's pure. Sabudana, that's what it is, sabudana. Yeah. All right, sabudana. All right, Haribol, Dandavat pranams, everybody.